running fans, jumping fans, throwing fans, all around athletics fans. Welcome to Talking in Ovals. How is everybody doing out there on this Tuesday, July 21st, 2026 for episode number 199? Lyle, what's up, man?
How you doing, Alex?
I'm doing well.
Things
Your
are.
first ever
That's true.
intro
It's
on the
it's it's
show.
a little intimidating, I have to tell you.
It,
It's good. Things are good here. It's been hot as blazes out here in the greater Boulder area. Uh, we're missing somebody
yes,
for another weather related reason.
Yeah, so up here in the Northeast, we're getting our asses kicked with some rain. There's been some tornado warnings. Dave is right in the midst of it because he's pretty close to the shore where he's located over there in Jersey. So he's been getting the brunt of it. So no Dave tonight. We're just hoping that he stays safe, that he stays on solid ground. I told him to buy a canoe and he refused. So he didn't want to do that. But Dave will be back with us. If Dave can't come back next week, we're not doing 200 without Dave. Like, we will do 200 when Dave is there. A little bit of
Absolutely.
programming notes. I believe that Tuesday works the best for everyone. So I think going forward, for anybody keeping score at home, Tuesdays will now officially be Talking in Ovals night, not Mondays. Mondays have gotten busier. So Tuesdays have just been open. So that's where going forward, Tuesdays, I believe, are going to be Talking in Ovals days. Now, obviously, we have the odd days where if we're trying to get, someone that has a schedule we need to work around, we'll do that. But typically look out for us Tuesdays at 9 o'clock again. So last week, we technically didn't have a guest, but we did have you doing your first ever show as a full member of the crew. And it was fun. We got to break down a lot of fun track and field things. Definitely looking forward to a topic we're going to talk about tonight. Um,
Absolutely.
and we can kind of, maybe as we bring in our guest, we can kind of reminisce as well as where we were right, where we were wrong. So without any further ado, let's bring on our guest. He is the Kutztown men's and women's cross country, indoor, outdoor track and field coach, Ray Hoffman. What's going on, coach?
How we doing, fellas?
We are doing well as always, and you are here to fully christen Lyle into the first opening intro. Now it's funny, I talk like Lyle's not been on the show. He's been on the show a bunch as a guest. He's been a fill-in host. But it's fun. It's just me. I will sit there and now it'll be 100 episodes in. I'll be like, this is Lyle's 100th new episode. Like, that might just be the new thing going forward. But how are you today, Ray? Everything
this
going
is a
well
privilege
over there?
for me. He was a guy I looked up to in high school, so like I'm pretty excited right now.
It's going to go right to my head, Ray.
Yeah, don't do that. I already give him enough praise for the book, so we don't need to do it even. We don't need to do it more. He might just go write a book about, I was a superhero to kids, and I didn't.
Speaking of the book, by the way, I have a box going out in tomorrow's mail to you, Ray.
I got an email about that today. So thank you. We appreciate that for our camp.
Yeah, I'm sending a few copies out to the camp. Yeah.
Blood, Sweat, and Spikes is always up there. It's part of my fixture back there. So, but yeah, Ray, when you read it, you won't be able to put it down. I will say that much. It's a good book. Lyle's a good writer, so it's well written. You'll enjoy it. And it's one of those books that, since you're a coach, especially of the distance guys and girls, you'll pick it up, you'll read it, and instead of just wanting to keep it, there's always those few kids that are readers and things like that, or just fans of the sport.
Yeah.
You'll hand that kid the book and you'll say, here, this is that happened to me when I was in middle school. I just like sports, and my phys ed teacher knew that, and he was also my soccer coach and stuff. He handed me Friday Night Lights before it was a movie, a show, or anything. He handed me that book, Friday Night Lights, and it's still to this day one of my favorite books. So I feel like you're going to do that with Blood, Sweat, and Spikes. But so typically when we have a new guest on, we get into their journey and stuff like that. But that is going to be the second stanza for today, because there was something that I think we thought could have been done, but for God, Lyle, Ray, for the past 10 years, I feel like the mile record felt almost unattainable. That Hikamel Garuch had that just locked in, and in comes Josh freaking Kerr. Now, Lyle, we talked last week about the possibilities of him doing it, whether or not Yard Nagoose was going to be a big factor.
Right.
Watching that race, Kerr ran the perfect race. You couldn't have run a more perfect race What was your reaction, Lyle, when I didn't get to see it live? I watched it later, but what was your reaction when you saw him break it?
Yeah, it was. Well, I'll start with I was wrong. I didn't think he was going to be able to do it. I thought it was just too hard,
Yeah.
and maybe that's an old-fashioned opinion. It was just there's so much to get that fast, you know. And I remember watching back when I was a kid, watching Coe and Ovett go at it, and Cram,
Yep.
Steve Cram break it in '85, and it's not. These are the kinds of things I really love because some things in life are supposed to be hard. They're really supposed to be difficult. They're not supposed to happen all the time. World records are one of those, and the mile world record for 27 years has absolutely been one of those for a bunch of different reasons. And all kinds of people have all kinds of opinions about the previous record. But to watch him do that and basically just eat pretty much even splits
Yeah,
across
it
the
was
board
crazy.
was just kind of spectacular. And I love this is another little thing, and I don't know if you know this about me, Alex, but my favorite races to watch are as much as I love a kicker's race, as much as I love a big cascade of people diving at the tape. I love to watch somebody run away from everybody else. That's my
Yeah.
favorite thing in the world, and I just really
Yeah.
loved it. I was so blown away by what he did.
So you were a big fan of the Mo Farah dominance years when he would
I
just quite
like that.
literally run away from everybody.
Yeah, you just kind of like it's just like you're looking around. It's like, okay, now's the time, and you run away.
Yeah. There's something, and the thing is too, it's like it's not like he just like broke it. He
Yeah,
broke it by half a second, and he was kind of disappointed when you listen to the pre-race. He's like, "Oh, I only got half a second." He's like,
he was
and it was
prepared to
funny.
go deeper. Yeah, he
It
really
was
was.
funny listening to him pre-race because he was like, he basically says like, I messed up that whole last fourth lap. Like,
Yeah,
I didn't really kick it into gear until the last like 50 meters when I realized that I needed to go harder in order to get it. Like,
yeah.
and that's crazy to think because pre-show we talked a little about how we think he could do more. So Ray,
Yeah.
what was your reaction when you found out? And I know we talked before, you're like me, I didn't get to see it live.
Right.
Did you go back and watch the race after that?
Yeah, I did. Like, I said, I was away with my family on vacation, and being a coach, you don't watch track when you're on vacation. The wife has a little problem with that sometimes, or the family, which I totally understand. But yeah, I went back and watched a race, and I had said before the show started, like, I honestly think he could run faster.
Yeah.
We always say, like, if you're running even splits, hey, your fitness is there. We got a little bit more in the tank. I mean, he did a lot of that. He had the pacers early, but he did a lot of that on his own later on. And yeah, he had Nagoose, in his back pocket for a while. And I mean, kudos to Nagoose. I mean, geez, that guy ran 3:45 and people were acting like he wasn't even in the race,
I'm that guy.
but yeah, right. And but like seeing some pre-race stuff on him, and like he just seemed very confident going into it. He seemed really confident, and he's like, I'm just going to go out and break the world record, and
So crazy.
yeah, he did it so even. Like, I'm like, if he had someone with him a little bit longer, I think he has more in the tank.
And here's like, and I said it like me, Lyle, and Dave. We obviously have a group together to talk and prep for the show, but also we're a bunch of track nerds. So we talk track stuff. And I said it, and I was like, that group of guys there, I think the slowest guy's PR was like 3:49, right? They were fast. If I'm that group, why was it only Yara Nagus on his tail? Like, I'm like, if I'm one of those guys, I am running with them as long as I can because I'm going to die to a PR, right? So it's like, why not? Like, if you're Hobbs Kessler, especially if you're a guy that's run 3:44, go get on there, go do something special. They were really strung out the
Yeah.
whole race up until I want to say the 800 when Kerr and Nagus really kind of took it to a next step. But it's also like, they're a bunch of pros. Respond. Go that third lap. See what you can do and then hold on for dear life that fourth. What's the worst that happens? You die and you don't run a 3:47? Like, okay, that might be your PR, but you could have possibly ran a 3:44. And really, so, my mindset watching that, something special might happen. Why not just go? And I know it's the easiest thing to say, but we've all been runners. So it's
Yeah.
like, Ray, You've been in races,
Yeah.
guys like Lyle back in high school and stuff. Was
Yeah.
there ever that mentality when you had those guys that you knew were going to do something ridiculous, but not like fully out of your realm to just go with them?
Yeah, I think I don't think like I think every level, like from like youth up to where these guys are, like it's a confidence game. Like whose
Yeah,
confidence in
100%.
fitness? How confident are you in your fitness? And like these guys are amazing that were in that race, but you know what? Some of them are just kind of like, do I do this now and implode? Am I gonna implode? Maybe I will, maybe I won't. I don't want to find out right now.
Yeah.
And as good as these guys are, they're the same as every other person, walking on this earth. Sometimes you don't have the confidence just to do it, even if you're fit enough.
Yep.
Yeah, I think the confidence thing is an interesting idea because it's I had an experience recently. It's a piece I wrote that a guest column that they ran at letsrun.com, and it was about a sort of a farewell retirement type gathering at CU here. A bunch of the CU 200 or so of the former CU runners turned out to wish Mark Wetmore and Heather Burrows sort of a
That's a
fond
hell of a who's who there.
Yeah,
It
right.
was a great night. It was really really.
Oh yeah.
But one thing, and a whole bunch of different runners got up to the mic and said a thing or two. And one thing this one guy said really stuck with me. And he said, for running at CU, and maybe this will resonate with you too, Ray. One of the things Mark and Heather both did with all of their athletes, or had this, connection in a way that was like they knew what their athletes were capable of more than their athletes did by themselves.
Yeah.
And he described a race one time where he was out, probably the NCs, either the qualifier or the nationals, and he's out there running and he's in over his head and he feels like he's about to just implode. And he heard Mark's voice in his head just say, "You're going to be okay." And that was it. That's all he needed to get to the next step, the next part of the race. And, you look at Kerr's preparation for a world record, so much of it has to be mental. I mean, he talks about it a little bit, but it's like so much of it has to be, just getting to know that, yeah, I can do this. And I think that may be why, Alex, when you say, why didn't anybody go with him? 27 years is a long time. And
it really is.
And that gets taller and taller every year. And unless your mind is ready for it, your body's going to have a hard time following. So it's interesting to see. And I think that's what made it so impressive to me. Not to mention it was in London. It wasn't in Oslo or Paris on some crazy fast track.
Those fans are going to give you a boost though, because that was his hometown crowd.
60,000 home fans.
Yeah.
I mean, that's cool. That's really cool. And plus there's I gotta think there's a connection to the British milers tradition, that bring it back home kind of a thing. Yeah. This belongs to us, which is cool, and I was, it's not like I was not a fan of Josh Kerr before this. But I didn't follow him that closely, and it was fun to watch and all that kind of stuff. But this was really kind of impressive to me.
I don't know.
I'm a chauvinist.
I want an American there. I'm sorry. We have great Americans. I want Cole Hocker to break the record of yard and goose. Like, as much as I like Josh Kerr, kick rocks, Britt. I want my American in there. But go ahead, Ray.
I just think the fun thing is going to be like, what's he going to do next? Because once you have confidence in where your fitness is, you become really dangerous.
Yeah.
And so, like, what's next on the menu? What's he going to do now? I think that's going to be a lot of fun to see. What happens.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I think like after Bannister broke 4 minutes, all of a sudden there was a cascade of other people. It's like all of a sudden the door got kicked open.
Yeah.
So Nagoose has run 3:43 and change.
Cole Hocker's up there.
Cole Hocker's run real low.
Obviously, Ingebrigtsen when he gets back, run
really low, and is probably irritated about
why not Cam Myers with the way he's been running. I could see
Cam
Cam Myers throwing his hat in the ring eventually, like sooner than later.
He's pretty, I said this last week. I think watching him, what he did at pre was extraordinary to me. That was another one of those races where, the headline was, Myers holds off Nagoose. And I was like, that's not what happened. And he just ran away from everybody.
Now, speaking of Yard, that's now 2 straight races that he's had guys run away from him. Now, granted, the one with Kerr, he ran away to a world record. That's a little different, but still, like Ray said, confidence, right? Yard Nagoose is our fastest miler in the history of this country. And, so he has that number. He's the American record holder. But what about his confidence gets shaken that Cam beats him, and then 2 weeks later, he is the runner-up in a race where he looked pretty game. He looked good. Like, he looked comfortable for the first 800. And even when Kerr made the move, Yard wasn't hurting up until about 600.
Yeah, he was there.
So he was there. So what does that do for Yard Nagoose in terms of his mental? He obviously has a schedule to run. He's a pro.
Yeah.
But can we see Yard get out of this funk? Like, what does he need to do to kind of get out of this? Now, Ray, if you're his coach, obviously Yard's at a high freaking level, but just in a running perspective, as his coach, what would you propose to try and do to maybe get him to forget the 2 times where he had guys pull away from him?
Yeah, that's a hard thing to do.
Oh my God.
Especially like I haven't seen anything on him after the race. I didn't hear anything about how he was feeling. Anything.
He's always a happy guy. Like he always has a smile on his face.
He
just looks happy to be there. Like he just looks very grateful.
Josh, blah blah blah, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so hard to get an athlete to erase stuff from their head. Like, it's so easy for us to be like, hey, it's water under the bridge. Let's move on to the next one, clean slate. Because you're always thinking about it. You're always thinking and thinking and thinking. So I think you take the positive. Like, maybe he wasn't feeling the best that day, and it's like, okay, I wasn't feeling 100%. I still just ran 3:45. So like, I know I have more right now. Maybe you play that card with them. You just kind of like dissect it and evaluate it. And I don't know him as an individual, so I don't know what I would say to him. But as a coach, I would definitely just dissect the whole race and what could we have done differently? Did we follow the race plan? Maybe he didn't. Maybe he was supposed to do something different. So kind of dissect it and go from there.
For me, it's like I coached at Marist for like 4 years, like not long at all. Over there with P. Colezo. But for me, if I'm looking at Yara Nagoose and for whatever thing, I'm saying to him, hey man, you're one of like the 5 names in the world that's in the conversation to go beat Josh Kerr, right? Like, yes, that's a lot of pressure, but also realize who you are. Like, you are a guy that everyone expects that if Yara Nagoose goes out next week and breaks Kerr's record, we'll be elated, but will we be truly surprised? Like, there's a handful of guys that if they all start breaking records, like if Cole, Yared, Jakob, any of them come back and we see a flurry of the mile record now be reset, because again, we saw Kerr could do it. Why not us, right?
Yeah.
We'd all sit there and be like, whoa, this is crazy. But it will be the guys we expect that would be able to do it. And I feel like that would be, because obviously the guy's training well. He's running fast. He's fit. But it's the mental side of it. That would possibly be the only thing I'd say is like, you are one of a handful of guys that the world still thinks could reset the record again. Like, don't give up on yourself type of thing.
And I think you're right. I think it's going to happen. I think it's like over the next, maybe few months here, I think it's going to go back and forth a little bit.
You think Cole Hocker didn't just watch that and go, I've beaten this guy multiple times. Let's go.
Like, I can run with this dude.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
So, I mean, who knows? I mean, someone might go 341 high and it's like, holy cow. And it's like, but then that might be a record for the next 29 years now, and then it kind of stagnates for a while until that next group comes around, but there are definitely the guys out there that can do it. No doubt. And like you said,
it is funny because after that happened, it was the next day. I saw Jakob put out a little Facebook post and I think Instagram updating everyone on his training, saying, training's going well. I'm feeling good. Don't believe what you hear. Any updates will come from me. And that just tells me that was Jakob throwing the gauntlet down to Kerr saying, enjoy it while it lasts, bro.
Right.
Because you got to remember, Jakob Ingebrigtsen's goal, and this has been since he was 18 and burst onto the scene, is I'm going to own every record from the 1500 up. That was his goal. He wanted to have every record by the time he was done.
Yeah.
And the 15 and the 1600 at the mile have eluded him. He had He's basically going. I have confidence that he can go get 3K, 5K, 10K. I really do. That is eluding him. The 15 in the mile, like
I
whatever he
think
runs,
it's
it's
really
crazy.
interesting though, because I like before last week, I went and looked back. I dug down into YouTube to look at some of the old mile world record attempts. And it's funny when you look at like the list from 1945 to now, there's not that many of them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not like it's hundreds of, it went back and forth dozens of times. It went, you know, there was that flurry in the 80s, but, you know, generally speaking, there were, you know, very specific times they hit along the years. And almost everyone that I watched, and so I'm talking from 79 to about the latest one, El Garouge. The only one where there were two guys going at it was the El Garouge record.
Yeah.
Everything else was set up. It was like set up for one guy to break the record. And, you know, so they arranged their pacers, they arranged their, you know, ideas. And I remember when I was a kid, I remember watching Eamon Coughlin break the indoor world record, go sub 350 for the first time out at the Meadowlands.
Yeah.
And it was interesting because he was known as a kicker. You know, he was a killer from as a racer.
Eamon's a monster.
And I think that's what, you know, like Cole Hawker is a killer. He has a killer instinct. You know, you have that kind of a thing. And some guys have it. And some guys, I don't know that they don't have it or they don't build
I
it
think
up.
everyone responds to pain differently in track. And there's some guys that compartmentalize that pain, push it away, and just say, I'll feel it after the line.
Right.
And some guys just say, I'm hurting. I'm going to die as well as I can. Like
Right.
they're all elite. But I
Right.
feel like someone like Cole is like, bother me later. I still have a race to win.
Right.
And maybe other guys, I'm not going to say Yara does because I've seen Yara kick before. So it's not like he hasn't done it.
Oh, absolutely.
But it's like, I think other guys are just like, no, I'm just going to hold this as long as I freaking can. It hurts and I'm going to go. Like, I feel like that's a big difference in track too. Who responds to pain the best towards the end?
Right. Well, I think you're right. I think there's a,
there's the mental again.
Sort of a comfort level, right?
Yeah.
You know, and I don't mean comfort level in pain, no pain. I mean comfort level in this is the kind of race I like.
Yes,
100%. I'm the kind of guy who likes to run away from everybody when it's time. Yeah. I'm the kind of guy who likes to sit and kick. And then as a world record, there's only one way to run it, really. You know, it's
you gotta go.
Fast to keep going.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And there's kind of a limited number of minds that can kind of absorb that, you know. So
is it just me, or is Brooks missing a really big opportunity right now? Because there was a lot made about the shoe, the Hyperion that they did, and it's custom for Josh Kerr, right? Why are they not renaming it the Brooks Kerrs and putting it out on the market? And because here's the thing, the Kobe's are meant for Kobe, the Michaels are meant for Michael, right? But everybody put them on their feet because they were good shoes and they had the brand. You're telling me, Ray, would you not have a bunch of kids coming with a bunch of Kerrs next year if they went on the market and they kept them at a relative price, like $160 to $170?
I was going to say, if it's like $250, $300, we're not getting them.
But here's the thing. Would they though? Because there's the Hokas that are out there for a you know, boatload of money. The Ons are not cheap. If they put this out from $160 to $180, you would have every good runner from high school and college putting on the Brooks Kerrs on their feet because the technology seems to have done the trick. What is Brooks doing?
And like to kind of like hit on that a little bit. I know on my women's team, a lot of my girls are now getting the Parker Valby.
There you go.
You know, it's Parker Valby.
Exactly.
Valby's got the Valbys. So, I mean, it was just last week. So who knows? I mean, they might be working on that right now.
They should have been ready though. There should be no working. There should be, if this is done.
It's an opportunity.
Yeah,
that's true. It's because
it should have been the moment he crossed the line. Brooks should have had the commercial running. They should have had a spot going.
Yeah.
If he doesn't break it, don't run it. If he does break it, break that. The Brooks Kerrs are now going to be at your next running store.
Yeah.
Like
sales would have been through the roof.
Oh my God!
That's creeping into Nike's territory because they're as you know, as good as the shoes are, and you can, you know, talk about shoes, whatever. The advertising, the marketing is what's really impressive about them.
It really is.
I mean, even going back to the 80s, I still have a memory of a track and field news full page Nike ad that I loved. I thought it was the craziest thing because I played golf. I was a caddy, right, as a kid all summer, and they had a cross country ad. So there was a guy training on a golf course, running on a golf course, and the tagline was just concede nothing. And I'm like, I love this thing. And they have all those things. It's like they all those little tags that just kind of get in your head, and they're really good at it.
For whatever reason, they understand the mind of the athlete from high school up. They really do. Like, they have a good pulse. So I want to go and I want to look. First, we'll look at, these are the results from the mile race. Now, as we could see, Kerr running away with it, still seeing the numbers. 3:42.66 is ridiculous. But you have Yard there, 45. And again, a whole lot of season's best, personal's best, national record for Farkin for the Germans, personal best for Nathan Green, and, really good stuff there, right? But I want to also look at the rest of the meet because this was a hell of a friggin' meet. I don't know if anyone else paid attention, but we'll go over. Let me scroll back up here. At the start of the meet, you have Julian Alfred out dueling Gabriella Thomas. Gabrielle Thomas, 21.66. And there's some names there. Shauna Miller-Aribo, Dina Asher-Smith, Amy Hunt. Like, we don't have to do like a ton of commentary on this, but I just want people to know this wasn't just a Josh Kerr show there.
Right.
There was
a heck of a meet. Yeah.
It was a hell of a meet.
Yeah.
And Julian Alfred setting the meeting record there at a London meet, which is pretty fast usually. So you have that there. So let's keep going too, because we're going to get to another one of our favorites that we talked about last week, Lyle. In the 400, you have Paulino running a 48.9. Again, another really good number, and looks like she's running away with the points over there. For the 800 women, you had Keely Hodgkinson at her home crowd out dueling Femke. I still call her Femke Bull. I'm sorry, the hyphenated. We talked about the hyphenations last week. Bull there. I was surprised Gemma Ricci didn't have a good race, and Addie Wiley has not been looking herself either. But again, Keely Hodgkinson, Femke Bull, you talked about her last week, Lyle, about Femke Bull. This quite literally looked exactly as you said. She didn't look like she was sprinting, as though she was giving her all. But Keely just beat her.
Yeah. And I got to tell you, it looked like I saw some quotes. I don't remember who it was, said Femke runs like a gazelle compared to some of the other runners. And I'm watching it, I'm like, I think that's pretty right on the mark. And I'm watching her finish that last 100 meters, and I'm like, why isn't she winding up? Why isn't she? It's like those steps should be getting faster. And I think it's just a matter of time before she kind of gets really comfortable in that second lap, and again starts running away from people, because it's just that the biomechanics she has are extraordinary.
So Ray, I want to ask you, how would you teach if you have a 400-meter hurdle specialist like a Femke Bull on your team, and you want to bring her up to the 8? One of the things Femke talked about that the challenge for her is figuring out position within the 2 laps. That's been a tough challenge, figuring out how to tuck in, where to tuck in, because she's
used to running lanes.
In the hurdle, she's used to lanes. It's done for her. So how would you tackle a challenge like that? If you have a really gifted hurdler that wants to run her, you need her to run the 8 competitively for conferences, whatever, got to get a few races under her belt to teach her how to do it, right? What would you do if you were sitting there with Femke going, okay, this is how you want to get into the race?
How the race wants to unfold. Yeah. Like, so my philosophy as a coach, especially like the 800, I know a lot of guys, a lot of girls, like they like to get out, get up front, get going. And like, my philosophy is totally opposite of that. I always try to like, hey, let's relax the first 200, because whether first place to last place, going through the 200 is maybe a second difference. So let's not put ourselves out there, because how often does that person who's leading through the 200 end up winning a race in an 800? Not very often.
Very rare.
So, depending on, someone like her, it's like, okay, let's set up outside lane 1. Okay. So we can go when we want to go, but we're still pretty close to the rail. Let's just run with like the reins held back a little bit, because, like I said, we don't want to be up there setting everything and have everyone running off of us. So I'm more about, hey, we got to be patient, set up early outside. Don't worry about people coming up, passing you, let them go. Stay in your outside lane 1 spot. So like when things like start unfolding, you don't have to worry about popping out or being boxed in. It's like we're there and we can go. You have these longer legs. You're not getting tied up with the people in front or behind you if you're up on the rail. Now, I know like we want to run on the rail as much as possible, but for some races, we want to be a little bit different than that. You know, if it's a 5,000, yeah, we're talking a different strategy there.
Definitely.
But for me, with my 800 kids, I'm always like, let's be patient, set up outside lane 1. And the race really unfolds with about 250 to go. You know, that's what
it's 300 on a lot, 250, 300 on.
Now. Yeah. I mean, that's when you want to start definitely getting set up and getting ready for that. Like I always like to do like a 150 build, you know, going into the finish. So that's kind of like my philosophy with that. And it would be the same with someone at that level.
And with Femke too, it's like, you know, the strength is there, right? Because 400 meter hurdle, you know, the strength is there. So I think your philosophy will be true with her, because it will be like, don't worry about being there late. You know, you're strong. You know, you can, that first 400, you're barely feeling it, right? Like, so just go out, run your race. So, again, Femke's learning the race, another 156 under her belt. Again, most women are just trying to break 2 minutes. Yeah. She's now been consistently under 158 the past 2 races.
And you know what's crazy is women running 158, 159 now, and people are like, meh.
Oh.
I'm like, what? I'm like, 158, 159 is a female. That's crazy.
The expectations. And now it's
getting to be like, well, you know, running 156s now.
We are in such a golden age and we don't even realize it. So let's keep going.
Well, that's the other record, right? That's the one that we
think everyone.
Those record is what, 1983.
Yeah.
So that's another one that's just a big wall to get over.
So we have the 3K women here. Jessica Hull had a much needed win here. That's honestly right there. She's been struggling, but she had a much needed win. Got some good names in here too. Obviously, Laura Muir down there. She didn't have a great race, but much needed win for Jessica Hull. I've been a Jessica Hull fan. I think she's a fantastic athlete. I don't know much about high jump, long jump, or discus, except for with the discus here, Valerie Sion, formerly Valerie Allman, loses. Sierra Jackson, massive throw, 71.72. That is huge. And again, beating a woman that rarely loses. So, and again, me being who I am, I'm just happy it's another American. So I'm okay with it.
It's true. It's good to see.
American on American violence in terms of winning, I'm cool. As long as it's set that to me, that I'm fine with that. So shout out to Sierra beating the standard right now in discus for women. 100-meter men wasn't a huge race. There was some good names in here. I'll pop it open real quick. Ajayi wins 9.84. It's nothing to scoff at. 9.87 for Oblique Seville, but not as big as some of the others. I want to go to the 400 men because you have Rye Benjamin over here running a 44.05. This is a pretty good, pretty fast race for right now, where everyone was basically outside of Ben Jeffries. Sub 45. Vernon Norwood just still doing Vernon Norwood things, consistently running 44s. But another good race here. Matthew Hudson Smith, obviously, in that race. But now we get down to this. We talked about this man last week. Lyle Brandon Miller, a teammate of Josh Kerr, over with the Brooks Beast. I mean,
he had a quote. He had a quote I saw. I don't know. I was probably said it at the meet, but I saw it today, where he was talking about how he just wanted to go out and kind of warm up the crowd for Josh. like he's a warm-up comedian, you know? And I'm like, that was a heck of a warm-up. That was a great race. That was fun to watch.
And the thing is, too, we have to remember, everyone was talking about Wanyoni. Everyone was talking about McPhillips in this race, Bryce Hoppel, Max Bergen. Like, there was some good names. And in comes Brandon Miller, who ran another person that just ran a perfect race, hanging around like 5th, 6th at the 400, and then slowly moves up and is up to 3rd by 200. Right. And he's the only one that was running with Wanyoni and Bergen at the time, and then flies by everyone with about 110 to go. And it was awesome to watch. This is I mean, are we watching Brandon Miller become the guy, Ray? Were they trading guys over in this 800? Cooper Lukenhouse has to look at this race going, man, I wish I was there to race him, and get redemption against him. But Brandon Miller is being a monster right now, Ray.
Yeah, 142.19 is crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you said, we're like in the golden age right now. Like, and I think we're going to start taking some of this stuff for granted because there's so much good stuff going on. And it's like, don't, man, take it all in right now. I try to like talk to my athletes about that. And it's kind of crazy. Like sometimes like some of the athletes don't even realize what's going on. Sometimes I'm like, no, this is really good stuff here. Like I'll be watching stuff on TV and I'll like, I'll get on our group text, my team's group text. I'm like, hey guys, like tune into this right now. Like this race is going on. Like this is phenomenal, man. And like some of them just don't get it, but some of them are really into it too.
I honestly think we're going to get a plateau where we're just going to have, I think 144, 143 is going to become like the new norm, even though it was always 144, 145, and you had your outlier guy running 142 high, 143 low. But I think we're going to just see like this race right here, I think is going to be common where your 7th place guy is 143.97. That used to win Diamond League races, running away like 5-6 years ago. So Bryce Hoppel, we talked last week. Dave thinks he's done. I can't say Bryce Hoppel's done because Bryce Hoppel's a talented guy, but looked awful. That was in the back of the pack the whole entire time. Lyle, what do you think with Bryce? Is this just not his year? Or
I will like to say that it's just not his year. Maybe he's having a tough time being consistent. Maybe he's having a tough time being motivated. I don't know what's going on in Bryce's mind, but he's too talented to be done at this point.
Yeah.
So it's that confidence thing again. It's you have to, like Kerr months ago, back in March, right? He put a stake in the ground and said, "This is what I'm going to do."
Yeah.
You don't always have to do that publicly. You don't always have to tell the world this is what I'm going to do. But when you're training for something, you have to put a stake in the ground for yourself and say, hey, this is what I want to get. And maybe he needs something like that. Maybe he hasn't done that. I don't know. But it's again, you ask what would you tell somebody? And I'm like, I might tell them something like that. It's like get a real clear idea of what you want to do and what you want to be. Put that stake in the ground and work every day towards it. And because it's the only way to get there, really.
It might be a little harder with Bryce Hoppel too, because since he ran that 141, he's just taken a ton of arrows. Josh Hoey, obviously always there.
It really is.
Cooper Lukenhouse coming up. Donovan Brazier coming back and looking like Donovan Brazier, winning nationals and stuff like that. You have also now Brandon Miller coming up, and it's like quickly Bryce Hoppel's the 5th fastest guy in the country, even though he has the best PR. But you're looking at it going, if Brandon Miller, Cooper Lukenhouse, Josh Hoey, Bryce Hoppel, and
Brazier.
Brazier lines up, who's putting their money on Hoppel to win that race?
Yeah. Well, before it
was, of course, you thought Hoppel was going to win, right? It's crazy.
Well, Cooper has really kind of rattled the windows here.
Oh my God.
I mean, how far he's come in such a short amount of time at such a young age. Everybody's talking about him all the time. And so, whoever's, the veteran hears those windows rattling. Whoever's the young hotshot hears those windows rattling. And it's like, where did this kid come from?
Yeah.
And then you have Brandon Miller going, I don't care.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's the way to battle it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, it's interesting. So the 800's got a lot going on, and it's rarely the premier event in a meet, but that's the one people are looking for these days.
And it's crazy too. It's like, we're talking about all the Americans. Obviously, Wanyoni's there. Marco Arup just dropped a 142 the other week, fastest on Canadian soil. So there's a good handful of guys. Same thing as the mile, where we could possibly see David Rudisha's record, which I didn't think was going to be touched for a long time when he beat Wilson Kipkitters.
Right.
We could see his record broken multiple times within the next few years leading up to the Olympics, because there is a quality group of men there. So let's keep rolling here. We saw the mile here again. Josh Kerr being a psycho, setting that mile record. But then we have the 110 here, and here's another star, Jacoby Tharp, just consistently bludgeoning sub 13,
Right.
like it's his job, because it is. Another win for him, and beating really good guys: Mendez, Cunningham, Britt, Tinch. I mean, I don't think Jacoby Tharp is going to stop. Like, this is looking to me like we're seeing him walk right into the Olympics and dominate. Like, I don't know if you guys, I haven't seen a guy come in like this in a long time, just dominating the 110s. If either one of you want to.
No, I agree 100%. It's the consistent performances are not only just consistent, but consistently dominant performances are extraordinary and fun to watch. And this is a guy who, in his head, he's put a stake in the ground and say, this is what I'm going to be. And he's just going out and being that thing that he decided he was going to be. And it's really, really fun. So, and now that's like, years ago it was Skeets Nehemiah, right? Was
Yes.
Nobody could touch him. And then Greg Foster kind of came out of the field and kept creeping up. And he was always sort of like the black hat, right? Everyone's like, oh, you're gonna, and then he broke through, and that's, so you're gonna have these guys are gonna have to decide to go chase him. That's all.
Yep. There's always someone coming up behind you, right? I mean, always, and when you're, the big dog for a while, and like you said, the cage is rattling or whatever, it's like you're looking back and you're like, man, I don't like this too much.
Yes. And when there's two ways. There's someone that gets hot, but also you see it a lot with guys as they get older. And that's not the case with some of the guys that we talked about in like the 800 and stuff. But sometimes it's just you're getting to the wrong side of 30. And in sport, that means you're old. And there's some young pup that was just like you when you were coming to be that killer for the older guys. They're coming for you now. And it happens. It happens fast. But I'm happy for that young man. He's entertaining too. He's charismatic. He celebrates his wins, which I want to see more emotion from our track and field athletes. So
I'm 100% with you on that one.
Absolutely.
Personalities are what drive. That's what makes the sport exciting for people who aren't familiar with the sport. They're like, oh, who's that guy? Who's that girl? Who's that?
And I've always been of the mentality of, like, obviously, Ray, where you're coaching in college, at the high school, college level, my whole thing was to every athlete, whether it was football, soccer, track, pretend like you've done it before. Don't make a big stink. You're a student athlete. You haven't earned the right to celebrate because you haven't really done much. Once you're a pro, that's where you should be doing it, because you're there to entertain at that point. You're there to compete and entertain. So that's always been mine. So here to the 400 hurdles. This is a man that I'm happy to see him kind of get him back on. Karsten Warholm. There was a little bit there where he was struggling a little bit, and he got the 300-meter record for the hurdles, which I hate, that whole thing that it exists. But 46.61 sets, I think he reset his own meeting record, world lead. Karsten Warholm is peaking at the right time again because we have the Olympics coming around, and he just lost the last Olympics. Right. So what are we thinking with Karsten here? He's looking like he's back, Ray? Do you think that he's back and ready to defend over here?
Yeah, I mean, running 46.61 right now, and he still has a whole season like ahead of him right now. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, things are looking on the up and up. I would say definitely on the up and up with him. But again, like, look what you got behind you. I mean, it's not, a second difference is a good amount, but you have other guys that they're coming up and they're coming for you here. So, but I think with him, he's definitely, now he's going back in the right direction here.
I mean, how could he come back from that stunning defeat in the 100-meter to Mondo Duplantis last year? I don't know how he was ever going to come back from that. But I mean, I think we'll see Rai Benjamin back in the hurdles, and they'll be going at it again, because obviously him and Rai are, the two competitors. Rai obviously ran that flat 400 in this race.
Sure.
But I mean, it'll be interesting. But Karsten, that's pretty much throwing a little bit of a gauntlet down, the 46.61 at this point. So that was all. So that was all the Diamond League competitive events. There's all these other events, but those were all the Diamond League ones. And we just want to touch because outside of Kerr, that was just a fantastic meet. And I think we saw, but we complain about it here all the time on the show, Lyle.
Mm-hmm.
Where is that in America? That's over in Europe. Our best athletes need to be there. We have nothing going on for our pros here.
If we could just get the stands half as full
right.
in Europe, it would be a big accomplishment.
It'd be amazing.
Right.
I just don't. I don't get that part of it, but it's a different type of living over here. Society.
Well, they think of the sport differently than we do here.
Yeah,
certainly do.
And I mean, honestly, it's funny because it was a big sports week for England, right? So
it certainly was.
You had the London Diamond League and a world record from Josh Kerr. You had the Open Championship in golf. You had the English national team getting to the semis in the World Cup. It was a big week.
And they walked away with third place. They walked away with third place. Yeah. So it's not like, and that was an exciting game. 6-4. They were up 4-0. And then
that was
France
crazy.
fights back. It was quite literally just like every war fought between England and France. England gets on top of them. France has a little bit of hope, and then England stomps them. Like, that's just a history of the two countries. But yeah, no, it's a big moment for England and everything going on. And I've never pondered this, but I want to ask you guys: do we think that the proximity to basically where the birthplace of track and field was in Greece, right? That was where track and field started. Do you think that's why Europe looks at it so differently? Because the birthplace of it, like Europe, you put all of Europe inside of America, it's like half of America. It's not full, like it's significantly smaller. Do you think that's a possible reason why they have just so much more respect for the sport over there because of the proximity to Greece, the start of it, everything like that?
Yeah, I mean, I would say so because, I mean, every country just kind of fed off of it after that, the way it expanded out. And basically the last place it came to was overseas, right?
Yeah.
So, I would say you're definitely onto something there. Definitely.
That's my history brain.
Yeah, well, I think so. I think, but they have such in England, especially England, Britain, and then Ireland. They have sort of a school kids tradition of run. They run. I went years ago. We visited Inishmore, was one of the islands off the west coast of Ireland. This is little. There's like there's hundreds of people live there. That's about it. Dozens of people live there.
Yeah.
And so we walked out. I walked out down this little road. And town is like the pub and the horse and cart and where the ferry comes in, and that's it. And so I walked down this one street, and there was a little school, and it was
pub is the most important part, by the way. In every single British town, the pub is the most important part.
And there's a little grammar school there, and it was just like a Wednesday afternoon, and they're all speaking Irish too. They're speaking Gaelic as a first language, which was fascinating, but. They're playing in the yard, and they had a track set up on the lawn of the school that kind of had rolls and hills in it because it was just on the playground. But they were having a track meet.
That's awesome.
And I'm like, that's so cool.
You don't stumble upon that much here.
Not a lot here,
No.
And there's a tradition of competing and racing and going against each other, throwing things, whatever, that's just part of their culture.
Yeah.
That we don't really have here, I don't think, or at least not as deep. And so I think that's part of it. And then that spawns the British milers, right? So there's a long tradition in that too. So they claim it as their own.
Have either of you guys ever heard Marcus O'Sullivan talk?
Oh yeah, I know Marcus.
Yeah, and he always tells a story about how he ran when he was younger, but like I think it was like Saturday or Sunday was like his dad's one day off, so his dad would always take him and his brother for a long walk. And I'm going back to the pub part, so they would like go for like a 5-6 mile walk, and they stopped at the pub, and his dad got a pint and got like some type of candy for him and his brother. Made him and his brother take their socks off, turn them inside out, and put them back on that way so like they wouldn't get blisters. and go 5-6 miles back. And he always tells like that kind of a story. So like you're saying, everything's centered around the pub. It was the walk to the pub and then the walk back.
Well, the thing is,
they walk everywhere. They don't, like the great American road trip, right? You know, where everything's a car here in our country, but over there they walk everywhere all the time. That's funny. I love that story. I like.
Well, listen, I wish we had a pub culture in America, not for the drinking part, but because, you know, I like history. I'm a history guy. I like British history because for me, people might get mad as much as I'm an American chauvinist. American history is short. 250 years, we've done a boatload in 250, but go give me the places that have 2,000, 3,000 years of history. Like that is me. Yeah. So looking at English history, it's just like, that's where boys become men, right? It is a rite of passage. Once you are old enough to go to the pub, you don't go there to get blasted. You go to be with the other men of the town. You learn how to be a man in the pub. You're looking at what to do, what not to do. You're learning how to fight. You're learning about social cues. You're learning a little bit of everything. And that's a European thing too, because I had a teacher that went to Germany on a trip, and he went in a German pub and was having a pint. And this is a tradition also in Britain where the guy will tap another guy on the shoulder and they just go out to the side and they box. And it's not, you know, not trying to kill each other. They just box. They go around, and the guy that loses buys the other one a pint. They challenge somebody else. That's just kind of a culture, and you don't have to do it. But he said a guy tapped him on the shoulder and was like, "You want to go around?" And he's like, "Oh, hell no, I'm not going." But he's like, but then you'll see the next morning, you'll go on the corner and you'll see these guys in like the nicest suits because they're businessmen walking to work with bruises on their face because they just go, and it's a part of their culture, and they're not trying to hurt. They're just letting off some steam, drinking a pint, having a match. But it's like, those are the things I wish we could do here. Like, I want to bring that culture to America. That'd be freaking awesome. Maybe not for the athletes in college. The last thing you would want, Ray, is to see one of your guys.
I don't want my guys coming back with black eyes.
But I mean, I just think that's awesome. So speaking of you, Ray, I want to move on to you because now we're going to go to the portion almost an hour deep into the show of what we usually do, and that's talk about our guests. So the first thing and the main thing I want to ask you is, when did you get the spark to truly pursue running? Not when you became a runner, not when you first started, but that time where you were like, this is my sport. This is what I want to do. I want to get good at this and be as good as I could be.
Yeah. I would say that was probably my sophomore year in high school. Running was the last thing I found. Started playing baseball when I was 4 years old. Played football, basketball, wrestled a year, did all that stuff. And definitely my sophomore year is when it started. Still had no clue what I was doing, but I remember I had a guy who was 2 years older than me. His name was Jimmy Adams. He was like one of the better guys I'm from Edison, New Jersey. So he was one of the better guys in the GMC. And I remember like just seeing him in some races battling like some of the really good guys in our area. Guy by the name like Greg Cavalier, guys from St. Joe's, Metuchen, McCarthy and Tilton and all those guys. And I was just like, man, I want to be one of those guys right there. Jimmy, who was the guy who was a couple years older than me, that summer, he really took me under his wing because I had no idea what I was doing. When I first started running, it was about a month into the cross country season, my freshman year. So, I don't know, you want to hear a story or whatever, but
yeah, let's go. We're here for all this.
Yeah. I was sitting in history class, Mr. Onder, I'll never forget his name. And I'm sitting in his class and get a knock on the door, and he goes and opens the door, and there's this little guy standing out there, and he asks, hey, is Ray Hoffman in here? And I'm looking, I'm like, what's going on? What I do? He's like, pulls me out into the hallway, and his name was Art Rostel, who was my coach. And he brought me out and he said, hey, Ray, I'm Art Rostel. I'm the cross country coach here. I honestly didn't know what cross country was. I had no clue. And like, you'll hear people say this, like cross country skiing. Like, that's all I knew was cross country skiing. Like, I'm just listening to him. And he's like, so are you doing any sports? And I'm like, yeah, I play football. And he's like, play football. He's looking at me, and I'm like, at that time, I'm probably like 5'10", like 115 pounds, but I played ever since I was like in the youth leagues and stuff. Football
Yeah,
was
yeah.
a thing. I love football. So he said, I think you should come out and run cross country. And I said, run. And I was like, okay, running cross country is running. And I was like,
I don't have to go get skis.
yeah. And I was like, and I looked at him, I go, well, why me? Like, what are you talking about? He goes, well, we had to do like a 1.5 mile time trial or
Yep,
like
the
testing.
presidential fitness test, all that type of stuff. Yeah.
And he's like, you had the fastest time in the freshman class. And I didn't even know that. But I remember that day I was like out there running and, I was a competitor just like all you guys are. And I was like, I'm going to win this. I'm going to be like the best guy out here. Not even thinking about like being a runner.
But you were just trying to be like the best guy in the class at that time, right? You were just trying, needless, no, you were the best
in the class. I didn't know what was
grade.
going on in other classes.
Yeah.
So like, he told me that, and I was like kind of thinking about it. He's like, well, go home, talk to your mom and dad. And then the next day he came up, talked to me. He's like, well, what do you think? And I was like, I really like playing football. And he's like, well, maybe we can do both. So I decided to go out and run cross country. And I'll never forget. It was like, I think you had to have like 3 or 4 days of practice before you could race. It was like something like that.
Yeah.
It was like a Tuesday and there was a meet on Friday. And like, I practiced for 3 days and he had me go out and run this race. So yeah. So we had a really good girl on the girls program. Her name was Linda Angelillo. And he's like, go out and run with Linda and see how long you could stay with Linda for. And I was like, all right. So like I was running with her and then like kind of ahead of her a little bit. And I was like, oh, I'm going, man. And I started like catching more people. And I ended up being like our number 7 man that day. So like out of like 4 days of like training, and I was like, my coach was like all ecstatic. He's like, yeah, I think we found someone here. So I gave up football the next year. I gave up baseball the next year. And that's when it was my sophomore year. And I was like, I want to be one of those guys there. Yeah. Never ran anything like outstanding in high school. No outstanding times. But I remember like my freshman year in track, like everyone was always talking about breaking 5 minutes. So they had like the GMC freshman sophomore championship.
Yep.
And I ran 4:59 that day.
There you go.
And so that was huge. And then my coach had me run like the 2 mile after that. And I ended up running 10:43 in the 2 mile, which I actually think that was better than 59.
Yeah, right? Yeah. 10:43 is not.
Yeah, as a freshman.
Yeah.
And then we went into the summer, and that's when like Jimmy started like getting on me more about doing some mileage. And my coach had a 200 mile and a 500 mile club shirt that he would give out at the end of the summer for like.
That's always awesome.
Yeah, so you go after that. So yeah, that's when it started though. But going into the sophomore year, I was like, I want to be one of those guys, and that's where we were from there.
That's really cool. I like that. It's and I'm kind of experiencing that now. My son is just going into his junior year now.
Okay.
But the last couple of years, it's been he's he ran a little bit. He didn't get started as early as I did.
Yeah.
But he started to develop an interest in it, and he started hanging out with the other kids who were doing well and wanted to do well as well as they did, and and now he's getting out there. He's about to leave tomorrow for their camp. They're going they're going up into the mountains for 4 or 5 days.
That's fun.
Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah.
It's funny too, because I remember freshman and sophomore year, especially similar to you, Ray. Like I was actually, my best time in high school was my freshman and sophomore years. Like I won some stuff junior year, but my best like times, like my PR from high school was still from my freshman mile. But I remember those times watching, like you said, you were watching your best guy really go like compete, and just thinking they look like grown men. The seniors and juniors and the best ones in those races. Yeah. And it was like, and they were physical, they were competitive. They were like, it was toughness and seeing the grit. And like, similar to you, it's like, I want to be there. Like, I want to be there at the end of a county championship. I want to be competing in states. Like, I want to be doing all of these things in sections and groups. And I just
want to go run at home now, man.
Yeah.
Right.
I just remember looking at them and remembering like some of like the great guys from my time and just being like, man, they look cool. Like just even if you lost, but you were competing, like you still looked cool because you were just going. And there was just something about that, similar to you, where you're just watching the best go at it. And it's like,
Yeah.
there's something about track when you're there and kind of when you understand the race too, right? Like if you're just a spectator, it's like they're just running. It's like, no, if you understand watching and where a guy's from, strategy and things like that, like the
Mhm.
races just become so much more fun.
Yeah, they
So
did.
give us a few more memories because
Yeah,
I want you to
well, I
walk down
mean,
memory lane.
my guy right here, Lyle, like I never knew him, but I remember like being a sophomore and, going to the Meet of Champs, and I was just watching, I wasn't in it.
Yeah.
And I just remember watching him and one of his teammates just like coming down the straightaway, and they were like running together. And Lyle, definitely know better than me, but I think it was the 2 mile. And I was like, and I didn't know what burners was. I didn't know teams, or I was still so young. I was like, damn, this team, man, they got some runners here. And then like, as I'm going on and getting older, I started hearing about Carlotti and, all these guys and stuff like that. And I'm like, man, that school was pretty phenomenal, man. And then I had an aunt and an uncle who lived up in Highbridge, New Jersey. In Highbridge, they go to North Hunterdon.
Yep.
When I was younger, I used to spend time at their house. And they had like a neighbor kid who like ran for North Hunterdon. Didn't know much about it at the time. But then as I got older, like I started knowing more about North and like North and Berners. I was like, man, those two schools are like top shelf right there. And I remember one time I was thinking, I was like, man, I wonder if I can live with my aunt and uncle and run.
Go run there. Get that training. Be with that group.
Got Andy Martin and all those guys, Gavin Sloan and
Babcock, all those guys.
Yeah, all those
they were unreal.
So, and here's another one for you. So I had 3 different coaches in high school. My cross country coaches did cross country, indoor did indoor, my outdoor did outdoor. So I had really inconsistent training and stuff like that. But my senior year, I graduated in '88. My senior year, we got a new distance coach in, and he was like a private coach that coached Jody Bellata.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
So what he started doing, right? Yeah, he was coaching Bellata. And I don't know if her coach ever knew about that or not, but they were doing stuff. And so on Saturdays, he would bring Jody down to Edison, and me and Jody every Saturday would do 400 repeats together.
Wow.
And we were both we both graduated in '88.
That's pretty awesome.
I remember the first time she came down, I'm like, kind of like, I knew who she was, but I'm like, can I do a workout with her? Yeah. And man, the first few reps, she was sticking it to me, man. And I was like, damn, I can't take this girl light at all.
And
man.
then the pride comes in there, and it's like, she might be Jody Bellata, but damn it, I'm not losing to her. Like,
right. No, man, I remember I would come off that last turn with 100 to go, and I'm like digging. I'm like, I can't let her. Every time I was like, I can't let her get to the line before me, man.
Yeah.
So like, she was probably like the hardest person I trained with in high school.
She was tough as nails, man. She was tough as nails.
Oh my gosh, she was crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, you win the 8, the mile, and the 2 mile at the Meet of Champs, and I mean everything else she did on top of that. So
it's funny the Hunterdon connection, because we, Bernardsville is only about 15-20 minutes away from most of those sending districts to North. So we grew, Brad Hudson trained with us, back in our junior days, and then he ended up at North Hunterdon. We knew Andy Martin and his family from being at all the meets at the same time, and just seeing each other here and there and everywhere. And so we got to know a lot of these guys, and it was we were different teams, but we were very we knew each other. We were friendly. We were very friendly. That was nice.
That's the great thing about our sport. I mean, you're competing against each other, but like, how many football players or baseball players or basketball players are hanging out like for an hour or so after they're done and just talking about things?
Just because track meets are really long.
Yeah, right. And it's the same thing coaching wise too. I mean, some of my best friends are some of the people I coach against right now. I mean, we're at a track meet for 10, 11, 12 hours and, hanging out, having some coffee, talking about stuff in between, bouncing things off of each other and stuff like that. So it's just a great sport.
It's great that way. And you talked about like seeing other people and getting inspired by, wanting to be one of those guys. Right. And that's, that's what the Burners program was all about in so many ways. Like you talked about Carlotti. I was a freshman when Carlotti was a senior. And I remember looking at these guys and thinking, Alex, you said they're grown men. That's what it felt like. They were like, and you watch the race and you watch Carlotti run an 800 meter and you're watching with somebody who doesn't really know, maybe, and you're like, they're just running, right? No, just wait. There's about 200 meters to go, 180 meters to go. Just wait right now. And then they get it.
Yeah, and there's something to be said about when like you're telling someone that really is like a layman into the sport, and it's like, and even in like college, right? You're watching a collegiate 5K, and the group that's there, and you're watching, and someone's like, "Oh, is the race starting?" It's like, no, it hasn't actually. Just wait until the last like mile. With the last mile, you'll see this group is gonna go, and then like that's when the race gets interesting. But those are the type of things that if you don't know, a layman won't get interested unless they have someone like us to sit there, and then they get interested and like, wait a minute, they just ran that fast and now they're about to sprint some more for 4 more laps. Like, what are they doing? Like, but again, that's exactly how it felt like when you were young and you were watching these athletes and watching some of them go. And, I had the privilege, like, again, I'm a few generations behind you guys, but I had in my class, Craig Foyes, which to this day, one of the most dominant athletes I've ever witnessed, and a guy that we were both 14, 15 together, and we were both 2 of the top freshmen in the state, but Craig was miles ahead of me. But just becoming friendly with Craig over the years, because we were the 2 freshmen in the big races a lot of the times. He was out winning it. I was competing, but we were just there and we saw each other and just being friendly. And like, there was like a few times where I had a ton of injuries and stuff. And one of the meets I came back and Craig was in and he's like, "Are you healthy yet?" And I'm like, I didn't know Craig Foyes didn't know if I was healthy or not. Like, it's one of those things, but there is that, because especially in your area, and it's a little different now, I think, where it's expanded more in with Strava and stuff. But before, you knew kind of like your regional athletes you were competing against in the county and stuff like that. And you saw each other at all the same meets, unless you were traveling across the state and you were seeing some random people. Like, for the most part, you saw each other every single weekend. You kind of knew where each other was at. And it's like, all right, what PR are you going for? I'm going for this. I'm not going that fast. Okay. Go. You talk to each other and you try to figure things out. So that is the beauty. So, Ray, do you have any more memories that you want to walk us down? College? What?
There's so many, so I ran for East Stroudsburg University, up in the Poconos and in Pennsylvania.
I almost went to East Stroudsburg.
We used to race there and all the time.
Yeah, indoors, right? Well, that's how I fell upon it. My senior year, we ended up having the Middlesex County Championships up there, and I've never been there before. And my thing was, when I was graduating, I was like, wanted to go and run at the next level. And I wanted to be like a health and PE teacher, which they're huge for up there. And they want to be too far from home, maybe like within 2 hours. Wanted to be somewhere like a little bit more mountainy. And I skied a lot when I was young too. So we would always take trips to like Shawnee and Camelback up there. It was my first time ever being on ESU's campus. And I was like, they had an indoor track and they had everything I wanted. And I was like, this is where I want to go to school. And so myself, and there was a guy who ran for Madison Central. His name was John Speeney. He was on the same level as me, and we were pretty good friends. We both ended up going there. And so we both ran up there. We roomed as freshmen together. So that's how I ended up there. And then, graduated from there. And then my whole like kind of coaching story like goes from there. But I ran for a great coach, Joe Koch, up there. He
legendary
was up there
name.
for almost 40. Yeah, he was almost like 40 years. He just retired a few years ago. He's one of my best friends. I still talk to him tons and tons of times, like a week. Bounce some things off of him.
Guest is what you're saying, since you have that.
He would be great. He would have some awesome stories.
Would love that. That's what we're looking for here.
Yeah, I mean, there's some good guys out there with some really good stories, but he really groomed me as a coach, and I had no intentions on coaching at all. I ended up changing my major from health to PE to psychology.
which is
And
helpful
when
as
I
a coach.
graduated my psych,
I wish
what's that? Oh
I
yeah,
always
at
thought that would
times,
be
at
really
times.
helpful as a coach. Yeah.
I mean, with distance runners, especially because we're all freaking neurotic,
Yeah, no
like you
doubt.
need a psych degree as a coach.
Yeah, you kind of need a psych degree for yourself.
Yeah, not trying to get too crazy about, oh, what am I doing here today? And
Yeah, so I graduated from there, and I was like, I don't want to go to grad school, and like, you have to do that with psych.
yeah,
And
yeah,
got in touch with my college coach, and I was like, I think I'm going to come back and get my teaching cert. And he was like, well, listen, if you come back here, because I was like, I'm going to go back to school. He's like, well, if you come back here, he's like, we'll pay for your credits if you help us coach. And I
not
was
bad.
like, well, let's
Yeah.
do it. So got my teaching cert, was there a few years, got my teaching cert, and was doing like my early field experience from my student teaching, was encouraged to like apply for some jobs within the East Stroudsburg area. And then my wife, we were dating at the time, we were married, but she decided she was going to go to grad school. And she was like looking down south, like East Carolina, Clemson, schools like that. And I was like, well, let's see where she ends up. And she ended up like going to Clemson. And I was like, I'm going to go down there. And I was like, man, I'll look for a teaching job or a long-term subbing job and see what I can do down there. Now, my wife was really successful. She was like a 4-time All-American at the D2 level. And she was like the top American miler for Division II her senior year. So yeah, she'd be
another future guest. That's all I hear. Another future guest. Yeah.
I am the chump in the house. Like when my kids talk to their friends and they're like, oh, what'd your mom and dad do? It's like, yeah, my dad, he was like an all-conference, all-region runner, this and that. But my mom, she was a 4-time All-American, and she did this and she did that and stuff. So I am like the chump. But so I ended up going down there, and she was still competing post-collegiately.
Yeah.
And so we went to the track office down there, and the men's and women's team are totally separate at Clemson, separate staffs and all that stuff. And we introduced ourselves to the head coach. His name was Wayne Kaufman. He was a great dude. He let my wife like run with the team, get to know the area. And then it was like 3 weeks after us being there, he came to me and he was like, hey, you ever think about coaching here? And I was like, what are you talking about? And he's like, well, here's the deal. He's like, he was the head coach. And he's like, after cross country, I'm stepping down. I have a couple of young kids at home. I'm doing some academic advising for the university. That's where they're going to move me, but we need someone to coach the women distance runners. And he's like, I talked to the Joe Koch guy up there at East Stroudsburg about you, and they had a lot of good things to say. And I actually recruited, when I was at East Stroudsburg, I recruited for the girls that were on the Clemson team that were from like New Jersey and New York and stuff. And, he talked to them about me, and they had some positive things to say. So, he's like, I can't promise anything. We have alumni applying for the position, all that kind of stuff. So I threw my hat in the ring, and I ended up getting the job.
Fantastic.
And then from there, like things just took off after a year there, and I ended up at Kutztown. And there's more stories to all that stuff too. I decided at that time I didn't want to stay at the Division I level. Okay. We had done 2 trips back to back from Clemson to Gainesville. And we would leave Thursday morning and then drive straight through the night Saturday and get back at 4 a.m. And we did that 2 times in a row. And I was kind of like, how am I going to be married and have kids? And like, when am I going to be around to do all that? And I was like, I want to do this, but I want to do it at a different level. And like Kutztown just provided everything for me, and 29 years later, I'm still here, and, I do what I love. And I'm home every weekend. Maybe on Friday I'm gone for like one night and stuff like that. But, I got to coach my son's youth football team for 7 years, outside my coaching track. I got to see my older son run all his high school races.
So you kept scratching that football itch, because I'm a football player too. That itch never goes away. When you play ball,
I'll tell you what,
you want to play for the rest of your life. To me, it's the greatest sport.
I'll tell you what,
we're on a track show. Football is my favorite sport I ever played.
Coaching my son's team for like his youth years until he got into high school was so much fun. It was so much fun. It was I have a banner.
There
right
you
behind
go. That's
here.
it.
Banner. So those guys they're all juniors now in high school. And it was amazing. They were 12-0 and the entire regular season they went unscored upon.
That's insane.
Wow, that's really amazing.
Yeah. No one scored. They were ranked in like the top 10 of the Atlantic region of Pop
That's
Warner,
incredible.
and scoreless the whole regular season. They won their first playoff game. They shut that team out. The next year or the next week, they got scored on, but they still won. And then they went to the championship and they shut that team out. And it was pretty cool. I'm proud of the little guys.
That's
I
cool.
mean, it's again, yeah. I coached my brother. My brother's 8 years younger than me, and I coached a bunch of his teams, Pop Warner and everything. And we're from Manchester. Manchester sucks at football. Like now they're getting good. We have Coach Farrell over there. He's a fantastic coach. Manchester football's on the rise. But when I was there, we were bad. But it was just it's fun. But we'll get off of football. I could do a whole entire football podcast as well.
Yeah, I know.
That itch never is done getting scratched. So I do want to talk to you about Kutztown because
sure.
Little do people know the PSAC conference is one of the most competitive conferences in the country, not just D2, in the freaking country. I've had friends. Two of our friends went to Lock Haven. Another one of my best friends went to Cal U, Pennsylvania. And especially distance traditions in that conference is insane. So talk about just a little bit about your program over there at Kutztown and what it's like in terms of competing against, all of these great schools in the PSAC.
Yeah, it is a competitive conference. And I mean, we have 18 schools in the conference. I believe it's the biggest conference in the country. And, going back in the day, like Edinburgh was just not only just a great Division II program, it was just one of the best programs out there. Doug Watts did a super job. He was there for like 46 years and, he just had some phenomenal teams. But like, you go across the board, like, I coach against Steve Spence every year, and he's one of my best friends.
Yeah, Steve Spence, a legend.
So he's one of my great friends. We talk all the time, and he's just a great individual. But like, you have coaches like that in the conference, then I was coaching against, my alma mater, my Joe Koch, who I highly respect, and he had great programs, and just conference wise, it's just a great conference. Yeah. So, it's ultra competitive. Back, there were time periods where like Steve's daughter, Neely, who's like one of the best runners in the country, and she ended up staying at home and running for SHIP, so we were like dealing with her and like, there's all
but
these
it's crazy too. It's like, cause you say like she stayed home and ran a chip, but it's like, there's not much drop off, right? Like maybe you're talking about if she didn't go to Oregon or like NAU, like it's not a huge drop off in terms of the competitiveness and the times and what you guys are throwing down over there in the PSAC. And we talk about it often on this show that you don't have to go D1. There are D2, number one, you can get a full ride. Number one. Number two, it is uber competitive. Like I did a fun, because I'm a numbers psycho and things like that. I did a fun thought experiment, didn't put it here. I looked at all the nationals from last year outdoor, and I just kind of merged the top 10 of each, D1, D2, D3 in the events. D2, and I want to say NAIA hold up really well in terms of like, again, there's some races that D1 just has depth, right? But the top talent, it's pretty similar, and D1 really matches up well. It's pretty crazy.
We just had, not us, but we had a guy in the conference just run 10:08.
Yeah.
I mean, that's crazy fast.
Yeah.
10:08. I mean, he was a junior, and now he's leaving now, but a 10:08 guy at a Division II school, that's, I mean, we had a freshman go 10:32, and I'm like, freshman going 10:32 is pretty fast. That's
really fast. 10:32,
and he ended up like, I think he finished like 4th or 5th this year at the conference championships. I mean, it's crazy across the board.
It's not a surprise too from seeing like, oh, there's somebody at nationals from a Division II school, or specifically, especially like from the PSAC. Like I remember when I was running over at Marist, Cal U, there was a kid from Cal U and a kid from Lock Haven that were both running, I think, the 10K over at nationals.
That's probably like Chris Clark.
Yeah,
And
and there was like, and it's
For
like
real.
sitting there, and here I am. I'm at Marist. I'm at D1, and it's like our distance team. We were good, but there were some distance teams in PSAC that probably would have beaten us with their depth. Like, and it's like it's just crazy, just that everyone gets locked into this mentality that if you want to be good, you have to go D1. That's not the case at all.
Well, I see that
I
now, right now, with my son and his cohort of both boys and girls running at their level, and they all have D1 dreams, right? They all have D1 in their head. But I keep talking to him about other schools and what do you want to do? What do you want to,
He better watch this show.
Yeah, I think he should. And I'm going to ask Ray this question right now: is what's the case? Because you see how many changes have been made in the NCAA in the last few years, and how they deal with things, and rosters and transfer portals and all this other craziness. That's like, I don't understand, honestly.
Heads are spinning right
and
now. It's like,
but there's there are some really, really good schools out there that aren't D1. That I was talking to. Pete Carroll, right?
Mm-hmm.
Pete Carroll coaches at.
He's a great guy down there.
At Swarthmore D3, and he always says he years ago, and he may not like me saying this. He said, "Well, we don't really get the fast kids. We get the smart kids. We don't get the fast kids."
But you know what? Pete is such a great coach
there.
Yeah,
and so there's a developmental part that fits into this that the D1 part is not as concerned about anymore. What's your perspective on that?
Yeah, well, it's funny that you bring that up, because I had a recruit in today, and the dad was awesome. The dad was a wrestler, but like he gets it. And like, the kids
wrestling is very similar, right? Because wrestling, you find some of your best wrestling schools are like these niche schools, random schools in the middle of the country. So I feel like a wrestling dad completely gets like you don't have to go to big names.
Thinking that's a lot like distance running.
You don't have to go to Iowa or Minnesota. You can go to a lot of places in wrestling. And I think he gets that in track too, obviously.
But he got that. He his son's looking at like, a couple other Division I schools, and he's looking at our place. And his dad was like, we looked at I looked at like what you've done there and like what your kids do. He's like, can you talk to him a little bit about like what your kids were like coming in? Because like, we're not getting 9:15, 9:20 guys. We're getting at the best like 9:38 guys, and that's rare. We're getting more 10 flat, 9:50 to 10:10 type guys. And the dad was like, can you talk to him a little bit about some of your current guys and their development and stuff? And I said, yes, that's what we take a lot of pride of. Like, we take pride of how we develop kids, and like we have two guys coming back, next year. One guy was like a 9:58 guy in high school, and this past year, this outdoor season, he went 14:37. That's a big jump.
Huge.
And then we have another guy who was like a 9:52 guy, and he was a sophomore this year, and he went 14:55 this year.
15 barriers. Once you get there, you're legit as could get.
Yeah, but that's something to be proud of.
Like, and that's what his dad was kind of like. You want to find someplace that you're going to get developed, not someplace that's going to bring in a ton of guys, have this cookie cutter like idea of what the training is, and it's like survival of the fittest, and kind of went into more how like we make things as individual as possible. Not everyone's doing the same volume. We're doing the same workouts, but volume and paces are a little bit different, and how we like incorporate our cross training. And I'm more of a quality than quantity guy. We're not very high mileage, but there's certain days that, we're getting after it. And, we do a lot of, we'll do a lot of stuff. Like, we'll do doubles, but we'll never run doubles. We'll do a cross training and a running, session. Like, we don't get caught up in weekly mileage. It's like, we're doing what we need to do on that day. And at the end of the week, whatever our mileage is our mileage.
So,
people are like, I got to do 70, I got to do 80, I got to do 90,
crazy with that.
Do what we need to do to get from point A to point B, and let's stay healthy doing it. Do
you find that your team has a little bit of a chip on their shoulder because they are coming in as good runners, but they're not the great ones that everyone wanted? And now here they come to you, and when they come as a freshman, maybe as that 9:50 guy, 9:55 guy, and now they see this kid running super fast, and then he goes to him and goes, oh, when I came in, I ran a 10:10 and now I'm running a 14:40. Like, dude,
Right.
does your team carry a little bit of that chip of we weren't the blue
I
chip,
think,
but now we are, and we can compete with anyone in the
yeah,
country?
I think they do. I mean, like every coach says, like you just got to buy into the
It's the
program and
truth,
you know
though. It
what we
really
want,
is.
yeah, what we want to do, and like for us, yeah, it definitely is because within just a PSAC alone, like we're not the best funded program, and we'll lose recruits to other schools in our conference that have a little bit more
Yeah.
money, and it's fun to see like a guy that I'm getting that ran in the same district as another school got way better guy, but now he's running as well or better than that kid, and like we walk around with some bigger smiles on our faces though. It's a lot of fun. So I think so. And
I was just gonna say
again,
I like that because it's not because there's a lot of times even growing up in the high school ranks you get these times where you race against some of the same people week in week out, season after
right.
season, and you'll beat this one guy one week, he'll beat you the next week, blah blah blah, but then you get these times where they make that jump, and now all of a sudden you're beyond that guy, and you're competing with a whole different class of people, and that's really what you're talking about here, and I think that's what I keep telling my son. I really keep my nose out of his training because his coach is really good.
Yeah. I'd say,
and he doesn't need me messing with anything because I come from a long distance, like many miles a week program years ago,
Right.
Which probably has no business, around anymore. But
That's what people did
yeah,
then,
it was.
right? I mean, now with social media and everything else, people are learning a lot more and people are sharing
Yeah, it
ideas.
is, and
so
it's
much
it's
more.
interesting. I spoke to Mark not too long ago, and he said my son was asking him questions. He was over for dinner. He was asking questions, and so he's picking his brain. And Mark said, if I had it to do over again, if I knew then what I know now, I probably wouldn't have had you do nearly as many miles. So it's
Yeah.
there's a lot. It continues to grow, it continues to change, and that's what I keep telling my son. I'm like, Aiden, there's going to be one day when you're out there, and it's probably going to be on a race day, not on a training day, because you've had the training experience a little bit. But you're going to be out there. He grew 3.5 inches last year, and he's
Wow.
he's like, it's a whole different athlete this year than he was last year.
Oh yeah.
And it just hasn't shown in his times yet. And I said, you're going to be out there and you're going to be deep into your cross country race, and you're going to look around and you're going to be right next to that. I'm not going to name him, that guy or that guy,
Right.
or that guy. And
Yeah.
don't be shocked when you see that. Don't be shocked when you experience it. You belong there.
And if you can run by them, do it. Don't
Yeah,
wait just
that's
because
it. You're
who's next
gonna
to
be in
you.
a place that's gonna feel really weird.
Yes.
But you've worked your way to be there, and that's a thing, and you don't know it until you feel it, until you.
And as a coach, it's so rewarding to see that in the athlete. Like it's funny, like with the freshmen, like go out and run a 5,000 on the track, and I'm like talking to them about their fitness, and I'm like, this is what we're doing. This is the pace we're running, and the kid will be like, but coach, I didn't even run that fast for the 2 mile in high school. How am I going to do that for 5,000? I'm like, your fitness is there. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
And like they'll go to and they'll do the race plan, and they're clicking off their laps, and you could see them. They're coming through 2 miles, and they just PR'd in the 2 mile on the way to the 5,000. And it's always the first thing they say. They're like, coach, I ran like my 2 mile PR in that 5,000 race. I'm like, it's so rewarding to like see like the happiness on their face when they do that.
And that goes
stuff.
back to what Lyle said earlier in the show about, coaching. And like I said, I've had my little slice of coaching at the collegiate level. You've been doing it for a little bit longer than I did, right? But just that feeling of, like Lyle said, as a coach, you don't have to be around an athlete for long to understand what they could do, to know their capability of if they're healthy and watching them train. And it's like, I think the biggest thing and the best coaches do is they tell their kids the truth and they don't lie. And I mean, when you're saying to a kid, you're not going to tell a kid that's not going to be a national champion that they're going to win a national championship. But if you're watching a kid who comes in at 15:30 and you're seeing his training and you're just like, you could break 15 this year. You're not lying to them. You are telling them, you're trying to put that in their head that based off what they're doing, who they're running with, how they're running, with the way they're getting after everything. It's like, I know what you can do. And then from, again, a little bit the coaching I did, watching these kids achieve it is so much better in any race I ever won, any title I've ever won. Just a PR from some kid that's been struggling to get there. And then all of a sudden, boom, huge breakthrough. It's the coolest feeling of all time, because one of the funnest things is when they do it and the first person they look for is you. Like, that's some of the coolest things. And you probably had that moment over and over, but it's just a cool moment when they look to you and it's like, you told me I could do it and I did. And it's like, yes, because I knew you could. Like, so just.
And that never gets old. That never
always
gets
a new
old.
kid.
It's just so rewarding.
But so a little bit more about your program. What is the type of athlete overall that you're looking for? Academically, athletically, give a little bit of a pitch for any athletes that are watching here, that perspective, because obviously big thing that's being made of is standards. Every one of these schools are putting up their standards, and even some small schools you're looking at are putting up outlandish times. I think I saw the University of Buffalo, which, not knocking Buffalo, good school, good Division I program, but I think their mile was at like 4:10. And it's like, that's Buffalo. Like, that is fast, right? So it's like, give a little bit about Kutztown, the PSAC, D2, why some of the best kids should look to come to your school.
I mean, I think we've kind of hit on everything already. It's about, the honesty of the coach, of the program, the development of the athletes, a competitive conference. So you're not going to come into this conference and there's only going to be like 2 or 3 good kids in like your event area. Like, you're going to have to work to like get to the conference. I mean, first of all, hit the standards to get there and stuff like that. Kind of like going back to what you first said though, about like what we look for in a kid. And like I said, I had a recruit in today, and I'm always like, I don't sugarcoat anything. I'm like always up front. I'm not like mean about anything, but I'm always going to be honest. And, I turned to him and I said, I'm not saying this because your dad's sitting right here, but honestly, like, your transcript is what's going to like first get my attention. I mean, obviously what your running is, but like, you could go out and run 4:15 in the mile, but if your transcript is not I'm not seeing what I want to see here, I'm not going to be interested in you. It's about your academics first. And like, we have a big thing, like within our team, like it's our top 3 priorities. It's, your academics, your athletics, and your social life. And, I always tell these kids, I'm like, next year, your freshman year is going to be your first year away from home. You're going to have tons of time. There's going to be a lot of distractions. And if you go on a visit and a coach says, well, distractions don't happen at our university, they happen.
They're lying.
Right. But, you got to live the proper lifestyle, and you got to surround yourself with the right people. And, we'll be at our team meetings, and every now and then at a team meeting, I'll just say to the team, I'm like, what's our priority list? And the team will know. They're like academics, athletics, social life, because if your social life takes over, your academics aren't going to go well, which means you're not going to be running, so you have to have your priority, something that we really emphasize big time at our university and within our program. And, we've done really good academically, and we have some really good programs here, depending on what you're looking at. So we take a lot of pride in like both our track and our cross country teams being, NCAA all academic teams and stuff like that. And that's like an important goal for us every year, is to hit that. Now, obviously we want kids who are going to develop and kids who are going to work. Watch what you're doing, on social media. That's huge. That's one of the first things I do when a kid reaches out to me. I'll go on social media and I'll check out their social media. And
it's crazy because I think now more than ever, because it was always a thing, and I think we all went through it, where coaches are like, when you're out, you're representing us. When you're competing and you're wearing that, I think now more than ever, especially with, there's so many kids that make like track TikToks and they do like pre-meet stuff and things like that, or like they have their Instagram pages, but it's like more than ever now, when you have that jersey on, when you are representing us, and even without our singlet on social media, you are representing this university. You're representing everything 24/7 now. So I feel like it's more important now than it ever has been, in terms of, you have to take pride in being a Kutztown athlete, and you have to do that 24/7 now. And you need to be guarded as to what your image is, because it affects the program completely and totally.
And the great thing though about our program is that, and a lot of programs are like this, you have the kids that buy into the program, and then the older kids are so invested that a lot of times coaches don't even have to step in on anything
No, that's the
anymore.
best.
Yeah, like your upperclassmen will take care of stuff.
Yeah.
It's just like little things, like, a young guy shows up 2 minutes late to practice, and like before I could even walk up to him, one of our seniors or juniors is confronting the kid and like kind of giving it to him a little bit. And it doesn't happen anymore. And when one of your teammates does something like that, it speaks volumes.
Yep.
So, I think we just have a great group. And whether it's distance, throws, sprints, jumps, I mean, we run a very balanced program, so we don't emphasize certain event areas. We balance our program out, and every event group gets together really well, gets along really well with each other, and men and women combined. So it's like, you always hear about the family effect, with track and cross country, but it really is. We're a really close group, and it just makes our job as coaches so much easier. Yeah. So really appreciate those older kids on the team.
So you answered it a little. How important is it to have your seniors and juniors and your rising ones buying into the program, right? And staying focused, because I think one of the toughest things and one of the things that burns in a program is when you have those juniors or seniors that have been struggling, right? They haven't had the career that they wanted to have. They're kind of still there. They still want to compete, but they're not as up because, it's hard when, like we've all talked about, the mental part of this game is the toughest part. And especially if you're training well, but you're not racing well, or you're often injured. And every time you get there, how important is it to have that good group of seniors and juniors that even when things aren't going well, they're still taking ownership of the program with you?
Yeah. And we've had that over, here and there over the years where like an upperclassman, maybe one of the top two kids in that event area, might get banged up or not running well. And we've been really fortunate. And like, we kind of talk about this as coaches to these kids who are like our captains or just our team leaders.
Well, because you look at your seniors as extensions, right? They're extensions of you at that point.
Right. Like, hey, listen, I understand this is going on with you and we're going to do everything to get you through it, but you can't be negative with these younger kids because they got to see, they're looking up to you. Like you may not even think they are, but they're looking up to you and they're going to feed off of you. And we've been really fortunate over the years just to have some great kids in place. And I think that's why we have a successful program. And, you could do all the coaching you want, but man, when you have those upperclassmen that are just positive, and they take care of things, I mean, it makes things so much easier.
The importance of recruiting.
That's don't undersell the impact of the program either. I mean, the idea, buy into the program, all that kind of stuff. We've all heard it. But, when you have a really clear priority of what's like your order of operations is academics, then athletics, then social. And just because it's third doesn't mean it's not important.
Right. You're going to have a social life.
Yeah. And they have an understanding and they know what the order of operations is. They know what's important. And so when they get off track, it's easier to get them to remember what's on track. And there's a pride in buying into something like that. Being part of, I talk a lot about, the thing I liked about the sport beginning to end is that feeling that you're part of something bigger than yourself. No matter what kind of level of success you may have had at whatever level, there's a long history to this sport, and a lot of people have been in your place at one time or another. So even if you're feeling lost from time to time, you can go back and say, wait, where am I? Where are these other people? Where do I fit? And it sounds like in your program, that's a really clear way of doing it. And so that, I think that's, it's great to have good kids and that's important, but to have that clear sense of where you belong is important too.
And I think it really does start in the recruiting process, like getting the right kids in. And, there's two things. I remember Bill Belichick always saying when they're bringing rookies in, a lot of the rookies that they bring in were captains on their team. But I always tell a kid this too, when they're visiting, I'm like, this visit that you're doing today is as important to me as it is to you. And they kind of look at me, I go, because I spend the whole day with the kids. Like some people will bring kids in and then they'll do an admissions tour and go to class with a kid or do this. Like I do everything with the kid. And I'm like, I spend the whole day with you because I really want to try to read you and like make sure you're the right fit for the program.
Sure.
And there's been kids that come in that were good athletes and they leave. And I talk to my assistant coaches. I'm like, I don't think they're a fit for this program. I'm like, I don't.
And I'll say this: we tell the kids that come on our show, especially the underclassmen, sell yourself. Like when you go to a coach, sell yourself as well, because sell yourself and make sure that that coach is wanting you too. And I feel like that would be, you'd be a program where like the athletes we talk to would kind of do that. Cause I try to tell the athletes, it's got to be a give and take. It's not a one-way street. Like you have to make the coaches, they should want you as much as you want to be there. And I think that that's important, but I do love that touching on what Lyle said too, where you have that phrase that you make them say about, academics, athletics, social life, right? And having them verbalize it and say it, and just you could randomly be like, what do we say? Boom, boom, boom. It, like Lyle said, it makes that become part of the culture.
Yeah.
And I'm someone that firmly believes that just as human beings, we need structure, right? Structure is good for us. When human beings are left to our own devices, we kind of get destructive, whether it's self, outside, that, especially guys, like we're a bunch of momos. But when it comes to athletes, even your best athletes that are more individual still need some sort of structure to be successful. And from day one, you're providing them with that, just with that slogan, you're structuring their life, how it should be when you want to be a part of this program. And I think that's huge in terms of, like Lyle said, the success of your program is because you immediately establish that structure. It's the hierarchies there. The athletes that are already there already know it. They're reinforcing it. There's nothing ambiguous about what you guys are trying to accomplish. And I think that's awesome.
All right. Thank you.
Yep. So outside of that, Coach, it's been a pleasure having you on. I know we did a little bit, anyone that watches or listens often, it was a little bit different talking about the mile record first.
But you got to talk about that.
It's one of the biggest things. And again, we're a bunch of distance guys. So for us, it's like, that's the Mecca. Like they could have broken Usain Bolt's 100. We would have been excited. But no, the mile just got broken. But I always say it's the one event America has, because everything else is in kilometers. The mile is the most important distance race, and that's ours. Damn it! But Ray, thank you so much for coming on. This was an absolute pleasure.
Hey, thanks so much for having me, man. This was such an enjoyable evening. I appreciate it. Good luck the rest of the way with this.
Of course, we have episode 200 coming up, hopefully next week, as long as we can get everything together and the rain stops trying to beat up on Dave. But Coach, social media, do you know your handles, anywhere people can find you?
I can send it to you guys. Like, I'm not the social media guy. I have someone else take care of all that stuff.
Smart. So everyone just go search.
Older in age, so like
just look it up on the Kutztown team site. Right?
Go on the team site, or just go search for it on Instagram or X or wherever you want to go and look them up. But it was a ton of fun, and I think, and we say it again, I think we're one of the biggest champions for it on this show. And listen, I'm a Division I guy. I ran D1. I ran it poorly, but I ran there. But you can go anywhere and be successful as an athlete, and it has to be the right fit for you. And if you are a small town kid and you want to go out to Texas, I don't know if that's going to be a great fit for you, because you're now going from small town to this gigantic program that, let's be honest, they have thoroughbreds there, right? And they all expect, everyone there is running 10 flat, right? Like, but if there's a place for everyone, and go and look everywhere. D2 is a great option, especially if you're in the Northeast. The PSAC is incredible. So
I'm telling you, some of the best coaches in the country are at Division II level schools. They really are. And I can name a ton of these guys right now. So, you don't have to go to a big name school in order to get better. So definitely keep that in mind.
Absolutely. So everybody, we appreciate you watching wherever you're watching from, X, Facebook, YouTube, Kicker, Twitch. Make sure you smash the like button. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. And we will be back next week, hopefully, for episode 200. We were supposed to plan something big. We're not. We're going to have a guest, and we're going to have a good time. We might do that. We might do something. Who the hell knows what we're doing for 200? We don't know half the time, but we will be back. Everybody, thank you so much for watching, listening, whatever. Bye, everyone.